As the Prime Minister prepares for the COP26 summit in Glasgow and pursues an ambitious green agenda, who actually voted for these measures? Did you? It begs the question, should there be a referendum on Boris's net zero targets? To debate this, I'm delighted to welcome Lois Perry, Director of Net Zero Referendum Campaign Group Car26.org, an old friend of mine. We've actually made a movie together. Conservative MP Michael Fabricant and Joseph Lewis, Policy Lead at the Institution of Environmental Sciences. Joseph, can we start with you? Do you think there should be a referendum on net zero?
Well, we are the Institution of Environmental Sciences, not political sciences. So you'll leave the political question on exactly what measures are the best way to talk to the public, perhaps to Michael and Lois. But what I will say is this. I do think it's quite sad that the only way our country knows to have a conversation these days is with a yes or no X on a piece of paper. And I do think there are maybe better ways we can have that conversation, really include people's voices, so that we're actually hearing what they have to say.
But isn't the X on the piece of paper democracy?
Well, the X on the piece of paper is some representation of democracy, but I don't think, Mark, that people really want to hear the question of if we should be doing things. I think there's a clear consensus on that. I think what people want to do is talk about how we do those things. And as soon as we move past if to how, as soon as we move past yes or no to talking about the way this is actually going to look, we can resolve all of those concerns, those real concerns that people have about the ways in which we do it and whether measures are right or not. And I think I'll take your viewers back to what you said just over a week ago when you were talking about Her Majesty the Queen, when you said, less talk, more action. And I think very much what we need right now is more action, more good action.
Michael, congratulations on increasing your majority at the last election.
I'd like to make it bigger and bigger each time.
It's ever expanded.
Yes.
You're known for that, Michael.
Thank you.
But would voters have supported you so vociferously if they'd known they were signing up for an expensive green agenda, an electric car, a heat pump boiler, which is going to cost, a fortune and may not work properly? Would voters have really signed up for that?
And could you even get it in your basement? I mean, it depends on the type of heat pump it is, but ground heat pumps are absolutely huge and you need a big basement or a big room to put it in. But would I go for a referendum? No. And let me tell you why. Because the whole thing is not... First of all, I think we should only use referenda or referendums for big constitutional issues, and this isn't a constitutional matter. And we're not a nation that does referendums. The second thing is, when we had Brexit, and I was a Brexiteer before Brexit, the word...
You backed the right horse, didn't you?
Well, I was backing that horse when I first became an MP years ago.
Well, I know. I think in your business career, you got fed up with the EU because it was much harder to trade with the
That's right. I used to
on the UK.
Yeah, I used to set up radio and TV stations, as you know, Mark, and I found it a lot easier doing business in the US and Canada and Australia and even places like Uganda because it was all based on English law. Yeah. And we understood each other. The Napoleonic law system in Europe is incredibly archaic. It doesn't move. It's not common law. And we're seeing the consequences now where Europe is languishing economically while the United Kingdom and the United States and Canada and other countries are forging ahead. I always used to say, I know we're going back onto Brexit now, but hey, I always used to say that European Union is like a ball and chain on the leg of the British economy. And now we've cut it off, we could actually
we've attached, haven't we, a new chain to our other leg, and that is net zero.
Absolutely.
I completely agree. It's going to cost billions.
It is.
And the public haven't been asked about this.
They haven't been asked about it. And my organisation, Car26.org, we did a YouGov poll today, and 58% of those who expressed an opinion of British public, and that was across the spectrum, said that they supported a referendum on net zero carbon policy. So I'm going to be calling for that. And there's a petition on my website, Car26.org.
But Lois,
everyone can sign.
What do they vote on?
You support referendums because of Brexit.
No. Well, I was going to say for constitutional things and where it's ones and noughts. What do I mean by that? Are you pregnant or you're not pregnant? Not you, of course.
I hope not.
Are we in Europe? Are we out of Europe? But,
Yeah, but
you know...
we need the debate, don't
Yeah,
we?
but as
There is no
Joseph was
debate. This
saying-
is a climate non-debate.
Yeah,
at
but
the
as
moment.
Joseph was saying, it's all a question of what we do, how much we do of it.
Well, then let's talk about it. Let's let the British public look at all the facts and figures. Let's find out
And
what it's going to cost.
Michael, borrowing enormous amounts of money, which is what the green agenda will involve.
Absolutely.
Asking people to, get rid of their car and fork out a fortune on an electric vehicle.
Only the rich
These are
can
not
afford that.
conservative policies.
No,
this is
they're not.
socialism.
Yes.
Well, that's an interesting point. I would simply say, is there a settled view that we do need to save the planet? And the question is, what do we do? We're not actually saying to anyone, you've got to get rid of your car now. And anyway, we were just talking about it outside. I mean, there is so much good work being done in Israel and the University of Pennsylvania and other places on new battery design for cars. Because, quite frankly,
They're very heavy and clunky, and the minerals that are mined to make them, kids are in the Congo, they're being used, it's slavery.
And the Chinese are ripping up the coral reefs, to try and...
ripping Africa up.
Yeah, to get the lithium and other products. So, you've got to look at this in a balanced way. And, of course, yes, electric cars are clean when they're used in the UK, except where are they getting the electricity from?
I couldn't agree more.
Well, you raise a good point, but Joseph, I mean, the bottom line is that Michael says it's not a constitutional matter, but if you're signing up for hundreds of billions of pounds worth of borrowing, I mean, Theresa May was told by Philip Hammond, her then Chancellor, when she was PM, that going carbon neutral would cost the economy £1 trillion. I mean, it's not constitutional, but it's a significant change to the country, a big commitment, and the public surely deserve a say.
Well, the question mark isn't, is there going to be change or no change? Change is coming. We know change is coming because it's going to change us if we don't change first. And the answer is, how do we manage that process of change to have the conversation that, Lois, you want to have?
Yeah.
And I don't think that the answer is necessarily going to be a referendum. Like I say, I'll leave that to these two to argue about. But what I do think is that there are great models for conversations that we can have that are productive, that give people...
But you have to ask the British people if we, or they as a government, are allowed to borrow that amount of money on our behalf and change our country, change the infrastructure of our country.
Maybe shorten life expectancy.
I mean, this is not communist China. In China, if they want an airport, they build an airport. There's no consultation. But this is a free country and a democratic one.
Well, what I'm saying, Mark, is you can have that free democratic conversation in a way that's more productive. You can have it in a way that's more productive, Mark. If you let me finish the sentence, I think it'll be slightly less unclear what I mean.
I'm going to strike myself down for that one.
Well, it's fine. It's fine because we're all friends here and we're all talking about positive conversations like the one we're having now.
Yeah.
That's a better conversation. What you do is you co-produce that. You bring people into the conversation. You look at them. We've got great models for this. We've got citizens' juries. We've got climate assemblies. We've got ways that we know
Yeah, but
that
we
this
need a
can work.
referendum. We do need a referendum. And I am also calling for, and my organisation is also calling for, a pause on all of the policies being implemented to do with anything to do with the green agenda until the referendum. And most importantly, a pause on all green taxes and the things that are put onto the bills for everybody until there's a referendum also. Again, the petitions
Lois,
on the website.
I'd like to support Joseph by suggesting that if we do pursue some of these green policies, jobs will be created. And actually, potentially, there's a GDP advantage if we invest in R&D for green technologies. And if we can sell green energy around the world, and if we can be independent when it comes to energy from solar, wind and others.
You and I know that we can never be completely reliant on renewable energy. It makes up only 5% of the international energy across the board.
Yeah,
and
it's more than something like 40% here in the UK.
It's not reliable, though, is it? Look at the period, was it a couple of weeks ago? We had no wind. We were 2 days away from there being no electricity.
I knew we'd wind up talking about the weather.
No, well, it is the weather. It's not climate, it is the weather. But that's another debate. But, we had to fire up a coal-powered fire station to make electricity that was mothballed and was going to be blown up by Mr Johnson.
We need more
next
nuclear.
year.
That's what we want. We should have a referendum, he said, changing the subject, on HS2. That's not constitutional.
I thought you didn't like referendums.
I don't, but when it carves up Lichfield as bad as it is,
Oh, so when it's
I think we should
Brexit election,
definitely have a
you won't
referendum.
say
He
about
likes
it.
referenda that he's going to win.
Well, I think we would win.
Well,
this
perhaps
one.
I'll save Michael here for a moment here, and I'll take us back to, I think, what is the heart of the question here, is that you're worried that it's a ball around the leg. You're also worried, I've heard you say in the past, you're worried about the risk that it might pose up front, the cost that it might set us behind the rest of the world. But as you say, it can be the opposite. It could be the opposite of that, because you say, we need to invest this up front. I see skills for the future. I see competitive advantage, because the answer is really simple. This is all about skills, and it's all about giving people the skills that they're going to need in the future, one way or another. And if we get on the ground level and move quickly on that, if we talk...
What if the science is wrong, by the way? Because the science is debated by some. And also, what if electric vehicles is not the way forward? Some people think that hydrogen is a better long-term solution for cars. So what happens if we spaff billions on this experiment and find that we took the wrong strategy, or we were curing the wrong problem?
Well, come on, Mark. Let's talk about scientific consensus for a moment here, because you throw that one out there and then move into electric vehicles very quickly. And I do want to pick you up on it, because there is a clear consensus on this, as I say. And I'm not just talking about scientific consensus. And you can look at the IPCC report, and you can look at the levels of confidence they have against different things that they're saying. And that's the scientific process.
Sorry, that's widely contested.
Well, that's the scientific process.
There's a COVID consensus, which I personally challenge. So.
Absolutely.
Well, I'm not going to talk to you about COVID.
In the course of this pandemic, I think we've discovered that the science is not one
There's
single
no
thing.
such thing. I completely agree.
But anyway, fulfill your point.
You can look at the IPCC, and you can look at the evidence they have, and you can look at what the working groups behind that have done. You can see a transparent scientific process, just the way it should be. But I'm not just talking about scientific consensus, because I do think there is a clear human consensus for some form of action. And
where there's censorship, there is consensus, and there has been censorship on all scientific ideas that do not go with the mainstream green agenda.
Well, Lois, I reject that, because I do think that there are difficult conversations which are being had by the media about this, and we're all here.
Final thought before I come to Michael, who's going to bang on about Brexit again, and Lichfield. What a lovely library Lichfield's got. But before we do that, what about the fact that if you're right, and you could be, that we decarbonise our economy and we go green, other countries like America, China, India, Brazil continue to pollute, continue to have a carbon footprint the size of a Yeti.
Absolutely.
At that point, our small contribution is a drop in the ocean. We've basically bankrupted ourselves, and still the planet heats up.
Mark, the UK has always been a nation of skills. We thrive on the skill of the people who live on these islands.
What if they're freezing to death? They won't have any good skills.
Well, we give those skills to them in advance by having collaborative, co-produced conversations.
But you haven't answered my question about if the others don't pull their weight.
Yeah.
If the others don't pull their weight, they will be left behind.
Emissions.
They will be left behind when we have skills for the future that they haven't moved forward with. But I do think COP26 is going to give us a great opportunity to bring those people on board as well.
Michael, final thoughts.
Final thoughts.
Come on, Michael, back me up, please.
I'm in the middle here. I'm quite enjoying it for once. I'm being Mr. Neutral. I'm afraid I do take the point. You know, India is not turning up to COP26.
No.
China is not turning up to COP26.
I'm going.
That's great. South Africa's not turning
In a Hummer.
Probably. No, a Mustang.
So I just hope, you know, Boris said to a group of school kids only yesterday, I think it was, you know, that he thinks it's going to be a tough call to get an agreement. I hope we do get an agreement, but I also hope we don't do it for nout. In other words, what is the point of doing it if we bankrupt ourselves and find that others are not joining in too? We might be setting a great example, Joseph, but it won't make any difference to the amount of carbon dioxide and hydrocarbons.
And is carbon that bad anyway?
There we are.
Yes.
Over to you, folks. Over to you. Mark at gbnews.uk. Michael Fabricant, fantastic to see you again. Do come and see us again in the studio. And also, Joseph Lewis, Policy Lead at the Institution of Environmental Science. And Lois Perry, Director of Net Zero Referendum Campaign Group.
No, car26.org, sorry.
Yeah, exactly. Can I apologise for that factual error? I do hope you won't cancel me now.
I don't cancel anyone. I'm anti-cancel culture.
That's it. Well, there it is. car26.org. Inform yourself and find out more. And
sign the petition.
You can do the same. Go to Joseph's website and also go to Lois's as well. And you can make a decision. You'll be like Michael Fabricant.
Yeah, follow me on Twitter, everybody.
He's got enough. Listen, he's got enough Twitter followers. There you go.